Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything.
There's a reason that Donald Trump and his officials only do interviews on the Fox propaganda outlet. A reason that Carolyn Levitt is bringing online propagandists to the White House to lob softball questions at her. And it's because this administration cannot deal with the scrutiny of real journalists and real questions. And the clearest example of that we could possibly see was in Donald Trump's interview with Kristen Welker today, in which a basic question about whether or not he would uphold the Constitution led him to lose it. Donald Trump cannot tolerate any kind of accountability, any kind of questioning, or any real journalism. It is the reason that he melted down in this interview. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, of course, we are going to get into that question that Donald Trump was pressed on, his attacks on the Constitution, but I think we should start where the interview did a question about why he's blaming Joe Biden for his economic failure.
You've been arguing all week that this is President Biden's economy. Is this now your economy, sir?
Well, I think certain aspects of it are. Costs are. I was able to get down the cost, but even that, it takes a while to get them down, but we got them down good. We lost $5 to $6 billion a day with Biden. $5 to $6 billion. And I've got that down to a great number right now in a record time. You know, we're talking about 100 days. But just think of what that is. $5 billion a day we're losing on trade. And we were very tough with China, as you know. We put 145% tariff on. Nobody's ever heard of such a thing. And we've essentially cut off trade relationships by putting that much of a tariff on. And that's okay. We've gone cold turkey. That means that we're not losing. You know, we lost $1 trillion to China. $1 trillion. That means we're not losing $1 trillion when we go cold turkey, because we're not doing business with them right now. And they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal very badly. We'll see how that all turns out, but it's got to be a fair deal.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now. And I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything.
I guess we really shouldn't be surprised with that really stupid answer. Parts of it are Biden, parts of it are Trump. And it's funny that he's saying parts of it are because those parts change every day. Donald Trump just the other day was saying that the stock market is down because of President Biden. And then 24 hours later, the White House was tweeting that the stock market was up, and anyone who panicked over this just should have trusted Trump, and oh, you're so stupid, and then the stock market went back down. So which one is it? Are you just going to continue to change your mind on who controls what in any given day? But this goes back to the point I've consistently made about the tariffs. I know that they were going to be stupid. Everybody did. But I didn't know the messaging was going to be this bad, that they were not going to be able to say the same single lie all the time. But there is an example in which they clearly do. And that's when Donald Trump is asked about his illegal immigration plan.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says.
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. But some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as
I
president?
don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United
I don't know.
States?
You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
This is what Donald Trump continues to say, always talking about how, oh, we don't have the time. We don't have the resources. Well, you could pass that bipartisan border deal that you killed that Vice President Harris was always talking about. So we would have more immigration judges hearing more asylum claims, processing these cases. But no. We want government to run efficiently until efficiently doesn't mean getting rid of the agencies that hold Elon Musk accountable for the criminal actions of his companies. We don't actually want real government efficiency. We don't actually want to fix a broken immigration system because we'd rather call it an issue than actually, find ways to fix it. Now, we would never do that. Of course, that is the Trump administration abusing as much power as they possibly can. And that was made very clear when Donald Trump was asked if he thought he needed to uphold the Constitution. And listen to what he had to say.
Obviously, you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. From a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Well, you say you have the power to bring him back, though. Your attorney general says, quote, that's up to El Salvador. Just to put a fine point on this, do you have the power to bring Abrego Garcia back as the Supreme Court?
Well, I have the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the Attorney General that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
Well, and your Attorney General has said the issue is with that word facilitate. Will you seek clarification from the Supreme Court? Do you need to go back to the Supreme Court?
We may do that. I was asking about that. We may do that. There are some people that say, bring him back, put him in trial, and you get him out right away because you see what happened just this morning. Tapes came out, horrible tapes from his wife. You don't get much worse than that. You don't get, he seems certainly like a very dangerous, very bad person, but even the wife who was so afraid, she was afraid to talk, and all of a sudden tapes got released this morning that were devastating to him.
And this is the point, sir, about due process. The Constitution says every person, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Why not push to have him come back, present all of that evidence in court, let a judge decide?
Well, I'll leave that to the lawyers, and I'll leave that to the Attorney General of the United States,
but
because they're in it. You have to understand, I'm dealing with Russia and Ukraine. I'm dealing
and we're
with
going to talk about that.
I'm dealing with Iran. I'm dealing with Rwanda and Congo, who are fighting, and we're trying to get that one straightened out, and I think we have done that. Did a great job. Nobody even talks about it, but I think we're close to doing that. They're looking like they're going to maybe make a peace deal, which would be good. But I'm dealing with a lot of different things. I don't know much about this gentleman other than I hear he's an absolute not good person. And I have very capable legal people, John Sauer, as you know, and all top people. And I have to rely on that to interpret whatever's said by the Supreme Court. Now, with that being said, I have tremendous respect for the Supreme Court. Look, 3 of the people are people I appointed.
Right.
And I have great respect for the Supreme Court. And I would expect that the Attorney General will be doing the right thing.
I don't know. That is Donald Trump's response when he's asked if he needs to uphold the Constitution. I don't know. And he says, well, I'm not a lawyer, so how could I possibly know? Well, You claim that you have the power to do everything else that you don't. You act pretty illegally every day without going, I don't know if I should do this. I'm not a lawyer. When it's in your interest, you're full steam ahead. But when it's about throwing your political enemies in prisons in El Salvador, when it's about investigating your political opponents, or when it's about enriching yourself, there's no second thought. There's no questions. There's no, maybe we should take a little time to figure this one out. No, we're full steam ahead. And on that full steam ahead, as it relates to corruption, Donald Trump made it pretty clear who these tariffs are actually serving when he was asked about small businesses right here.
So small businesses say they are being hurt by the Chinese tariffs, and some could be forced to shut down.
And many businesses are being helped.
Are you
Look at the
considering
automobile
tariff
business.
relief for small businesses?
Why do you always mention that, you pick up a couple of little businesses? What about the car business? They're going to make a fortune because of the tariffs. Do you know that the union, the head of the union, who was no fan of mine, Sean Fain, I guess his name is, right? He didn't endorse me. The Teamsters did. A lot of people did. A lot of unions did. But he didn't. He couldn't stand me. Now he's saying, wow, what's Trump's done for the automobile? I can't believe it. I assume he's going to probably now say the next thing he can say is, I endorse this guy. He's the greatest I've ever seen. He can't believe it's happened. He said, we've been waiting 40 years for somebody to do what Trump is doing. So why don't you mention the big car industry instead of mentioning somebody that's doing strollers?
Well, I'm just asking you about small businesses. Are there any discussions about giving any relief to small businesses?
They're not going to need it.
Okay.
They're going to make so much money.
Are these tariffs?
If you build your product here. Remember, there are no tariffs if you build your product here. It's very easy.
It is a telltale sign, first of all, when someone talks about tariffs, if they bring up car manufacturers and selling American cars overseas. I don't think that a Ford Raptor can drive through the streets of most small European towns. So this idea that we're going to start sending huge trucks over to Europe, one, doesn't make any sense because of the size, and two, also because of the admission standards, something Donald Trump wants to make even lower, which would make it even more difficult to sell American cars in Europe. So I just want to start with that right there on the car point, but let's go back to what Donald Trump had to say about small businesses. Will there be a carve-out, an exemption to help them? No. He doesn't care. Why doesn't he care? Because the small businesses can't bribe him. That's ultimately what these tariffs are about. If you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company who needs to carve out, you can go down to Mar-a-Lago, spend $5 million, have a candlelit dinner with Trump, make a big, donation to his library, buy $100 million worth of his meme coin. He'll shake your hand and say, yeah, of course we'll give you a carve out. But small businesses can't do that. That's why Donald Trump doesn't care, because although he spent his private life as a citizen screwing over small businesses, now they can't really help him, and he doesn't really care. Speaking of not really caring, it also seems like he doesn't care about one of the biggest promises he made on the campaign trail.
Are you any closer to reaching a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia?
I hope so.
How would you characterize
I do believe we're closer with one party and maybe not as close with the other, but we'll have to see. I'd like to not say which one we're closer to, but we did do a deal for the American people that was good. We were able to get rare earth. The Europeans are getting paid back.
If Joe Biden had done anything equivalent to this, Republicans, Fox, the entire MAGA apparatus would be melting down. Donald Trump was prosecuted for crimes he committed, and MAGA said it was the greatest government overreach we've ever seen, and in a complete political persecution, and how Donald Trump is sicking his goons on a university just because they don't want to comply with him, and his attempt to completely control their academic standards, what they teach, which students they allow on campus. Like, this is insanity. This is an attack on free speech that Republicans clearly don't care about, which is just a great reminder, never take these people seriously on anything. They have no values. There's no set of beliefs that they actually fruitfully engage in. Do not trust these people ever. And we're not going to do that on this show. We're going to call them out every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.